This will be for the con exercise, secant lines and average rate of change. All right, so they want to know what is the slope of the secant line that intersects the graph of h of x equals 15, radical 15 minus 2x at x equals 3 and 7. So I am going to show you this on the graph. You 100% do not need to graph these, all right, but I want to show you what we're doing first. So this h of x, it's just saying that it's a function of x. It's basically the same as y equals this right here. Okay, so I am going to show you the graph of y equals radical 15 minus 2x, and I'm going to show you the secant line that runs from x equals 3 to x equals 7. So let's graph this on a graphing calculator first. So right here on the Desmos graphing calculator, I typed in y equals radical 15 minus 2x. All right, let's look at the graph. So here's the graph. Okay, and basically, we're going from x equals 3. This is the x-axis. Here's 0. This is x equals 3. And here's 5, 6. This is x equals 7. All right, so we're going to the graph on those points. At the 3, it meets it right here. And at the 7, it meets it right here. Now, this graph is curved. Okay, so the slope is always changing on a curve. But if you drew a secant line connecting these points from there to there, okay, we can find the slope of that line. That's the secant line. All right, so that's all we're doing. You do not have to graph anything. But since this, once you connect the 2 points, since this is now a line, we can find the slope with the general slope formula, change in y over change in x. So this is basically all we're doing, okay? And you don't need to graph it, you just need the equation, as you will see. So we're looking to find the slope of the secant line. Slope is designated with the letter M, and you can also write a little SEC if you want for secant line. Anyhow, we know the formula for slope for a line. It's change in y over change in x, okay? And more specifically, it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, all right? Now, we do have the x values right here, but we don't have the y values. So how are we going to obtain the y values? Well, you simply plug in the x values into the equation to get the respective y values. All right, so in the denominator, we're just subtracting the x's, so that's going to be 7 minus 3. And in the numerator, we have to evaluate the function at 7. In other words, plug in 7. So the way to write that, you could say f, but I guess in this case, the function is not f, the function is h. So we'll say h of 7. That just means we're plugging in 7 in place of x for the h function. And for this one here, it's going to be h of 3. Okay, and that just means you're plugging in 3 right here in the h function. Now, does it have to be 7 minus 3? No, you could say 3 minus 7. Okay, but if you reverse these two, you have to reverse these two as well. Notice it lines up. We're subtracting in the same order. The 7s are first and the 3s are last. All right, so make sure you subtract in the same order. All right, let's see. So off to the side, I'll do this h of 7. That means we're plugging in 7 right there. So it's going to be radical 15 minus 2 times 7. Okay, so that's going to be 15 minus 14. So that's just radical 1, and the square root of 1 is just 1. All right, and now I'm going to do h of 3. I'll do it down here because I don't have the room. But if I did h of 3, That just means I'm plugging in 3. So it's going to be radical 15 minus 2 times 3. Okay, so that's radical 15 minus 6. Let me move this over. All right, so we have radical 15 minus 6. 15 minus 6 is 9, and the square root of 9 is just 3. So now we can use these values in the equation. All right, let's see. H of 7, we got 1, so in place of that, we can write 1. Minus h of 3. H of 3, we got 3. And in the denominator, 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, 1 minus 3 is negative 2 divided by 4. That's going to be negative 1/2. So that's the slope of the secant line. All right, negative 1/2, negative 1/2. What is the average rate of change of f of x equals x squared plus 5x over this interval? Okay, this is the interval for the x values. All right, this is not x comma y. These are the x values. So you can call this one x2. You can call this one x1. All right, average rate of change, it's basically the same as the slope. All right, so we're basically looking for the slope once again. That's going to be change in y over change in x. All right. So that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. However, once again, we do not have the y values. We have to find them by plugging in each number. All right. So in the denominator, x2 minus x1, it's going to be 5 minus 1. And in the numerator, we have to evaluate the function at 5 minus, and we have to evaluate the function at 1. Okay, notice once again, I'm lining these up. The 5s are first, the 1s are last, so you want to make sure. All right, and let's work down here. F of 5 means we're just plugging in 5 in place of x. So that's going to be 5 squared plus 5 times 5. $25 plus 25 is 50. All right, and now we need f of 1. And again, that just means we're plugging in 1 for the f function in place of x. So that's going to be 1 squared plus 5 times 1. One squared is 1 plus 5, that's going to be 6. All right, now we're in business. So f of 5 we said was 50 minus f of 1 we said was 6, and divided by 5 minus 1, that's 4. 50 minus 6 is 44, and divided by 4, that's 11. And again, if you had reversed these two and reversed these two, you would have gotten negative 44 over negative 4. So same thing. 11 in the box. All right, slope of the secant line. So once again, we're finding slope. It's going to be change in y over change in x. I like to do the denominator first. x2 minus x1, let's do 3 minus 2. Okay, for the y values, we need to plug in 3 in this function, in the g function, so that's going to be g of 3. And for 2, we have to plug in 2, so that's going to be minus g of 2. All right, so let's evaluate g of 3. We have 3 divided by 3 squared plus 1. And that's going to be 3 divided by 9 plus 1, which of course is 10. Now let's do g of 2. We have 2 divided by 2 squared plus 1. 2 divided by 2 squared plus 1. So we have 2 in the numerator. 2 squared plus 1 is 4 plus 1, that's 5. Now, just looking at this, we're subtracting these numbers. We're going to need a common denominator. So 3/10 and 2/5, let's see, let's make this into tenths. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, notice I did the top and bottom multiplied by the same number. All right, now we can finish. G of 3 is 3/10 minus G of 2, which is 4/10. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So the whole thing is divided by 1. We just need to worry about the numerator. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. And the common denominator is 10. That's divided by 1, which does nothing. So that's it. Negative 1/10. All right, the last one is the same thing. You're still just finding slope. You can do x2 here. This is x1. You need to plug in these values individually to get the respective y values. All right, I had one like this before, and the x values were 0 and 2. So it's still the same thing. If you wanted to plug in, let's say instead of y, we call this f of x, because that's how they usually have it, f of x. Okay, if you wanted to plug in 0, and you did f of 0, that would just be 3 to the power of 2 times 0. Okay, 2 times 0 is just 0, and 3 to the 0 is 1. And if you wanted to do f of 2, it would be 3 to the power of 2 times 2, because you're plugging in 2 right there. 3 to the power of 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 to the 4th, that's the same as 9 times 9, or 81. All right, so it's the same thing, even if you have an exponent.